So first, Ray, welcome to the Generator Founder Series Spotlight. Thank you for being here. And for starters, please introduce yourself and your company.
I'm Ray. I'm the founder of Sandbox Wealth. We are an open finance platform for wealth managers. So think of independent financial advisors like RIAs and family offices, trust companies, insurance carriers that have wealth businesses. These are firms that don't have banks necessarily, and they can't offer a lot of the same products and services that their competitors at wirehouses and private banks can offer around deposits and lending solutions. So what we do is we build a platform that allows their customers to log into our interface, access the broad array of banking and lending solutions through our network of banks. And that way, as a firm that manages clients, you're not referring your best relationships to JP Morgan or Morgan Stanley to get access to credit. You might just work through Sandbox, keep your relationship, and access those products through Sandbox.
Excellent. And what's the current status of Sandbox? Whether you want to talk about customers, revenue, traction, investment, investors, however you want to define that, what's Sandbox current traction?
Yeah, there's a little bit of everything going on as far as those bullet points, but we're about 2 years old now, a little over 2 years. We've raised $2.5 million in total. A million and a quarter of which has been announced, 1.5 million or so has been raised this year and hasn't been announced just yet. And that was sourced through gener8tor largely, right? Northwestern Mutual is part of that. But we also had that pre-seed round led by Next Gen Venture Partners. We've had First Trust come in as an investor, so really great strategic partners on the cap table is maybe what I'd highlight on the investment front. As far as end clients, a lot of it's been driven on the investment side through relationships we've built, that I've built over the last 20 years, but in part through relationships we've built over, the last 6 or 7 months, primarily through Halo Investing would be maybe the one I'd highlight there. Halo's a structured note platform is so they sell these instruments that banks issue to access capital through investors. And what we do is we help them, sort of source liquidity against those assets. So if they sell a structured note to a client that wants to finance that investment to buy real estate, to pay tax bills, purchase artwork, whatever it is, we help those clients with sourcing liquidity against those assets, and that's opened the door to dozens of wealth managers as far as our distribution. So working with channel partners like Halo helps us gain leverage and distribution, and we're able to sort of mirror that distribution with other partnerships that we're building, including First Trust, but also firms like Case or iCapital, firms that you might be aware of that sell similar instruments. So really great traction over the last 6 months. This is sort of the year where we've stopped making those enormous mistakes that you make in the first 2 years of being a startup, and we've started cleaning those up and really starting to execute. So it's been fun.
Congratulations on all that traction. Where is Sandbox located?
We're based in New York City, so a lot of people come to New York to build fintechs. That's not unusual, but I've been here for the last 20 years. I've sort of seen, it grow into a fintech hub. Obviously, it's known for being a more traditional finance, hub, but over the last 2 decades, that's changed quite a bit as you've seen more venture dollars flow into the city. But I'm here because that's where our clients are primarily. We work with banks. Most of them are based here, and so that makes it quite a bit easier for us to convince them to work with us. It's sort of building out the network that I've built over the last couple of decades.
Nice. We're going to be out in New York City coming this fall, so I'm sure our team will love to reach out and connect.
Of course.
Ray, remind us, when did you go through a generator accelerator?
Yeah, so I went through the Northwestern Mutual Black Founders Accelerator last spring. I guess that would be cohort 7 based on just some rough math based on this being cohort 9. Great experience. I still keep in touch with most of the founders. I mean, what's great about gener8tor is it's all fairly small cohorts. So you get to really know the founders that you're working with. And there's all sorts of different, synergies you build along the way through the cohort. And you get to sort of exploit that as you build your companies over time too. So, I'd meet with 4 out of the 5 founders every other week just to kind of touch base and see where we are and where we can help each other out and sort of, exchange some ideas. So, one of the best decisions I ever made was working with you guys.
We love hearing that. Thank you. Um, how would you say the accelerator helped you the most?
Really building out the network. I mean, I think I've been through four accelerators now, and I think the network is always the biggest outcome of an accelerator, or at least the biggest determinant of the sort of value of an accelerator. And with the generator accelerator, I sort of mentioned that it led to our pre-seed round, but it was more than just a Northwestern Mutual connection. We went to a conference in St. Paul that led very indirectly to us finding NextGen as our lead investor in that pre-seed. So just working the network and not just those first degree connections that you meet within the accelerator, but really pulling the string on those relationships and, getting to the second or third or fourth degree connection that might ultimately lead to, finding your lead investor is what I'd recommend to any sort of founder going through an accelerator in general, but particularly the generator accelerator.
I love it. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs or founders considering an accelerator program?
Well, this is pretty big. So, like, I think a lot of founders that want to go through accelerators are doing it because they either want to raise some capital or they want to build out that network. But I think the biggest thing you need to understand as a founder is no one's going to do the work for you. I think a lot of people just sort of think that they'll passively be able to, find a lead investor because they'll be introduced to investors, or they'll find that first client because they'll be introduced to banks or end customers. But you really got to be an active participant in the accelerator. And again, not just sort of using those first degree connections and really being an active participant and going out there and finding those clients, and not just letting it sort of come to you.
I like that a lot. No one is going to do the work for you. I think we've all experienced versions of that. So thanks for calling that out. Ray, tell us about your favorite part of the program, or perhaps the favorite connection that you made either during Generator or after.
Well, I mean, so between Northwestern Mutual and finding our lead investor, those are two pretty good ones. So I think I'd call out both of those. But again, it wasn't sort of like handed to us on a platter. Like, we went to that conference in St. Paul. We met with Ashlyn Lackey at Prudential. She got us in touch with the guys at Proven Ventures. I met with some of the founders in their portfolio. One of those founders put me in touch with a handful of VCs, and one of those ended up being our lead. So that when I say, that's how we sort of pulled the thread. It started with a fairly innocuous outreach to Ashland on like an app to see if we can meet during the conference in St. Paul, and that ultimately led to us finding our lead investor. So again, being an active participant and finding the right people, being strategic about who your investors are as well. I'd say learning about that, just sort of understanding that my role isn't just to take any dollar that comes in, it's to take the right dollars into the company that are going to be creative over time.
I like the conference mention. So shout out to the Generator Insurance and Wealth Conference each year in the Twin Cities. It's interesting because we put that on and we never always get the anecdotes about, well, who met who and what connections either directly or indirectly came out. So it's always really nice to hear that, and we appreciate the anecdote. My last question, something I ask everyone, is if you had one ask for the audience, not only the people watching right now, but as we post this on social media, if you had one ask for this audience, maybe it's an introduction, an investor, advice, a customer, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean it's hard to ask for anything when we've been dealt such a good hand this year, but I think as we've sort of experienced the growth and in our pipeline, we got $1 billion pipeline of loans now that we're trying to address through our network of lenders. I've started to realize that we need more lenders. So any introductions to banks that might be interested in working with us would maybe be where I'd start as far as the ask go. But again, we've been so fortunate this year that that's really all I can think of.
So any introductions to banks or lenders, please send them to Ray at Sandbox Wealth. Thank you, Ray. Ray Dennis, founder CEO of Sandbox Wealth. Thanks for being here, and thanks for all the kind words and being a great generated portfolio company.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you having me.